Live from our newsroom, it's the Hard Times Podcast! With Bill Conway and Matt Sankum.
All right, Greg, thanks for coming on the Hard Times Podcast. You're here to talk about your new documentary. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yes, guys. So I've been inspired by my many years backstage at the most busted clubs of America. And all of the dicks drawn on the backstages, it's just a question mark in my mind. As I'm cruising through one after another, city after busted city after another, they're just there. They're dicks. And you're like, you sit there and you look at them and you're like, man, that thing must have taken hours and hours to draw, and you're like, who's committing to this and why?
The veins, the hair,
Yeah.
Do you see regional differences in between the penises? Like you go to like one state, like none of these penises are circumcised here. That is very, very interesting.
Well, again, if I had actually made this documentary, I hopefully could have answered some of those questions, because I'm sure those questions may have arisen, as many, because it's a deep psychological thing. Let's be honest.
It's true.
So that would be the, wherever this adventure would have taken me to this documentary that I actually didn't make, but thought about.
You're looking for funding right now. That's where we're in the funding stage.
Yeah, you go to Greg's GoFundMe.
Kickstarter. Oh my God.
It's just the title of the Kickstarter is just Dick Doc, and there's no capitalization, no nothing. Like
you got the
you
title.
didn't fill out some of the profile pictures and stuff. Very low information.
Dick Doc with like a clock and like dicks or something like.
The time is now. Dick Doc.
My name is Greg. I'm from the Bouncy Souls. I'm giving up music. That's it. I found my new passion. It is I need to talk about these dicks on the wall.
It's a question mark. Just honestly, like that I walk around every time I walk into one, and you're like, there they are, like in mass, just like the last place. Yeah.
Can I tell you guys about my dick on the wall story?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm all set. No.
Okay. Maybe not.
Okay.
All right. I guess for the sake of the podcast, let's hear your dick on the wall story.
All right. I'm in college, right? And I've always liked making like little pieces of art. I'm not like good at art, but I like doing it. It's just fun, relaxing. And I used to be into the graffiti a little bit. Again, not very good at it. But anyways, I get this idea for like some sort of 3D type sculpture thing. And I'm going to use like a jigsaw, and I'm going to cut up a bunch of shapes out of this board that I have. And I'm going to glue them all together, and it's going to like this big like mirage sort of, or like collage of like different shapes, and they're all going to be painted different colors, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm working on this thing for weeks, right? In the side yard, I got my fucking goggles on. Bzz, bzz, I'm cutting up board after board after board. I'm painting them all, right? People are like, wow, he's really got a vision. Like, what is he up to? Just sparks are flying. It takes me like 2 weeks to put this thing together. Okay. I glue them all together. I paint them all. I put them up on my wall of my college dorm. Okay. I step back. I swear to God, every single shape was a dick. I had no idea I was doing
Subconsciously just cutting out dicks and dicks. Huh?
There was big curvy dicks. There was little dicks. There was two-headed dicks, but they were all dicks.
We may have cracked the code on this right now, guys. Like it was, all over the nation and all these busted ass clubs. It's sort of this unintentional subconscious thing, right? Everyone's like, I didn't realize I drew 50 dicks in 50 cities.
There's someone out there who's like kind of like the Johnny Apple dick. He doesn't even know it. He's just out there just flopping them down city to city.
Yeah.
There's a Netflix show that goes into an investigation of someone who drew dicks on a bunch of cars, right?
I think there's some stuff has come out like that. Like, yeah, I don't know. I've heard murmurs here and there about.
It's like a Funny or Die thing, I think.
Yeah, it was one of those fake true crime docs.
Okay.
American Crime? What was it?
American Vandal? Is that
American
what it is?
Vandal? Yeah, I've heard it was good. I didn't watch it though.
Okay. These guys know about this then, probably.
All right, Greg. Well, it was great having you on the podcast.
I came what I here. This is what I came for. So it's done. Ridiculous.
So how you been, man? How's quarantine treating you? How's life? What are you up to?
Well, it's been a wild ride, it's been for everyone, I think. So I guess I'll hit on the subject because it's kind of all part of the same thing. We finished recording a record and quarantine. The last day of our session was when quarantine went down in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. We were recording just outside of Philly. So I was in New Jersey staying at my dad's with my wife and my 2-year-old for 3 weeks. And we were sort of, we first arrived in Jersey. I live in Idaho now, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Guess I need to make that clear. And it was sort of some little news blips when I first arrived in Jersey, not barely any news happening about it. But as we were recording in the session every day, it was ramping up at that time. So we even at the last 3 days, we wrote a song about it. It made it to the record. It's called World on Fire. It was sort of a very spontaneous thing, which was super cool. And we had the best time recording. We recorded sort of rethought out versions of old songs. And we were super spontaneous. We had a list of like 25 songs. We didn't look at the list for about a week. We just went in and we're like, should we play Kids and Heroes? Yeah, let's try that, And so we were it was the most fun, chill recording I've ever done, pretty much. And we kept saying, we're having so much fun. And like, the world is like in this vice that's starting to tighten. Like you could really feel it back then, right? Like as that last week came before, you're like, wow, we're really going to actually quarantine here, And so it was very strange, but also wonderful way to, sort of put a period at the end of things before this whole quarantine and our whole like transitional survival mode kicked in for everybody, I think, in various levels. So, and now the record's actually coming out. We can't tour at the moment. So, all that's really cool. And then as far as how I've been spending my time the last few months, I live up in the mountains. So I really love being here. We have a lot of space and we built the greenhouse we've been always wanting to build this summer. So I've been here for 12 years and that's something my wife and I always wanted to do. It's just about done. And we planted some trees and it's like played with my son every day out here. So we live in a really great place. If there's a pandemic, this is not a bad place to be at all. Like this is where like actually everyone's running to these places, like rural areas. That obviously I'm sure you guys know, like the exodus out of like the big cities has been pretty insane.
Yeah. It sounds very peaceful. It sounds like whenever people describe lives like that, I think about it's either like this extremely peaceful, idyllic sort of, get in touch with nature, or it's like the Unabomber. And Greg, I don't know you well enough, but I mean, it could go either way. Maybe. Well,
I came right out talking about dicks on walls and stuff. So, I mean, who knows?
That typewriter behind you that says manifesto, right on the top sheet page. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's what's kind of cool and not so cool about Idaho. Like we have total extremes. You have the like off the grid, like sort of cool off the grid people that aren't Unabomber types. And then you have the off the grid Unabomber types out here.
Yeah.
So it makes for an interesting population. But now it's like the Californians are coming in like in droves and have been even before the pandemic. It's just like a massive migration. And it's all the jokes are pretty funny about, that I got in a cab in Boise and there's an older guy and he asked me, he's like, so where you come from? And I said, I live in McCall. And he said, my family had a house out there in the lake when I was growing up. Couldn't afford it though. We had to sell it. All the billionaires are kicking out the millionaires up there,
Yeah.
And that tells you the story of where this little valley, it's got a lake, and there's like skiing in the winter, but 75% of the homes are like second homes, and like people who live here can kind of barely afford to like swing it. But now it's changing like crazy because people are coming here like crazy. But and again, I'm like rambling, guys, about
No,
all
I
kinds of
mean, it's
crap.
interesting to think about having a second home. We're like, can you poor people please stay away from my house while I'm not using it? I'm going to need it 12 days out of the year.
It's kind of gross. Like, I gotta admit, like in the world out here, like, and I know people, you know, work really hard. They're in their like late 20s or early 30s, and they can't afford to buy a place out here. And, you know, they work super hard. And it's weird. It's really strange. And then you're like, all these homes that are just empty, you know, it just seems, it's kind of insane, you know?
It's a little weird. There's a lot of weird stuff like that in the world. In LA recently, there was this whole big conversation about, the state owned a bunch of homes for one reason or another. I think that they go into foreclosure. Or I don't know. I don't know how the state actually gets them, but there's like the transportation department and stuff owned all these homes. And then there's all these homeless people. And the homeless people like, can we stay in these houses that literally no one that the government just owns but forgot about? And I think eventually they did let some of them move in because they're like, yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of. I think they had to really fight for it though. They had to like protest and picket line and. It's a weird thing though.
It is, man. But so yeah, it's been nice. And then again, as far as musical side of it, like I've been on tour for the better part of 30 years. So, you know, my wife and I used to like be like, imagine if we stayed home for a year, you know, because I did the math and I realized I haven't been in one place that I lived for more than 3 or 4 months since like 1995, probably. So I've broken that record. Now it's been like 6-7 months since we were back from
You're going
Jersey.
really hard from one side to the other. You're going travel the entire world to please do not leave your home. It might be unsafe.
Yeah. No. So, I'm definitely like, I'm an introvert. I'm a classic lead singer. Like, you know, I'm super introverted, but put me on the stage with a microphone and that's how I get my extrovert side out. But then, you know, I'm like a moody bastard off stage, you know. Anyways, I have had some definitely weird moments where, you know, I'm not getting that stage like experience and that energy and like the side of myself that's like loves hanging out with. I miss my buds, you know, like and you know, we have such a good time, like the band and crew, and so it was funny because I spent most of my life like on tour, in a van, on a plane, or whatever, as an introverted person, like looking for that nugget of time for myself, like constantly running and searching for that little few moments where I'm not around a ton of people. And I like finally hit the wall after like a few months. I'm like, I'm ready to hang out with some people now, guys, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I got what I asked for, you know. So
when you guys were finished recording the album and like the lockdown happened, did you get stuck where you were, or were you able to travel back home without an issue?
We were, but it was super stressful. So I was staying at my dad's. The session ended. We had 2 days before the flight left, and like everyone was having a shit. Like on the New Jersey, New York was in their shit time. Everyone was like out getting toilet paper. It was that moment. And
I forgot about that toilet paper thing was an issue for a while.
Toilet paper days,
it was, and then
peak fear.
My wife and I, this is ridiculous, right? So we live way up 100 miles north of Boise. We're pretty far out. So whenever we go fly into Boise, sometimes we usually get in the afternoons. We go do some shopping, and we were like, Shanti was like, oh, we'll pick up some toilet paper when we get back. We literally had one roll of toilet paper in our house, and we're like, we'll pick up some at Target on the way home. And then we were like stressing about that. We're like, there's not going to be toilet paper for months. It's going to be gone. And so we were like, screw it. We're not going to like care about that as much as everyone is, because it's insane. You know what I mean? You can like figure a way around that. Anyways, we're stressing over multiple things. My dad is immune deficient, and he's sort of like, what's going on? Like, he's like, you mean I can't go to the supermarket? Like, he's just kind of like a little bit a week or two back on what's happening. And we're like, we got to get him set up and like food shop for him because he lives alone. So we were sort of like, my wife made a bunch of things for him. We were stressed. Yeah. And then we didn't even know if they were going to shut the airports completely, which they did a day after we got back. So we get to Newark Airport. Nobody's there except for all the employees, like the guy at the Dunkin' Donuts is just sitting there with a huge, stacks of donuts, just like, yep, okay, here I am. And then we fly to Houston, and that's completely normal, which was, of course, weird and not weird. We were like, everyone's like, yep, fully everyone in the airport in Houston now, not like Newark Airport. And then we flew into Boise, and it was late, so we were like, let's just get a hotel, because we were like mostly exhausted from stress of all that the last few days. And I literally like felt like the crazy person. Like I got into Boise and I was like, everything, they don't know what's coming. It was totally normal in Boise. And I rolled into the hotel and I was like, dude, I just flew in from New Jersey. Like I might be the guy who brings this thing here. Like I was just kind of like with my tinfoil hat, like, you don't know what's happening here, sir. Like something terrible.
You're the character with the
is
zombie bite that you're like covering on your forearm, sweat is starting to pour out.
That's how I felt. I felt like that guy.
And
he's like,
give me all your toilet paper. Why do you need more toilet paper, sir?
You're a one-man riot at the supermarket. No one else cares. You're just
yeah. I'm just like, what? You don't know. You don't understand.
I felt like that.
He was cool. He's like, I got some hand sanitizer. I'm cool, man.
That peak fear was a really interesting time. I remember going to the grocery store and everyone's just like so silent, right? They're not sure what the rules of COVID are yet, right? Like, do you get it from touching things?
It was awkward. Yeah.
You look down when you walk past somebody. You're just like, if we make eye contact, does that do it?
And then, it's deathly quiet in there, and everyone's like a little bit tense. Everyone's taking like a little bit more pasta than they need, and then they go back for more. They're like, maybe more pasta. They're not quite sure, right? And then there's over the loudspeaker, there's this thing playing that just goes like, for the health and safety of our customers, please remain 2 shopping carts apart. And it just sounds like the audio recording that still plays after the zombie attack. You know what I mean? Like when the main character is walking
right, everyone's gone. Right. And then there's like the dude with the machine guns walking around the aisles. Yeah. And he hears that. Yeah.
He hears like when society was just trying to get a grip on things before it completely went away,
Yes.
I don't want to be a total downer on this great conversation, but I just got a news alert that Eddie Van Halen died just now at 65. So
from COVID?
Cancer. So, boy, Van Halen bit the dust. Yeah, that's.
I feel like I thought he was older than that, but wow.
Yeah, 65 seems young for Eddie Van Halen.
Well, he's living like a rocker, so I mean.
Yeah,
a rock and roll 65 is a good 85 for others.
Yes. Yeah, man.
Too bad.
I got down with some Van Halen in my day, so send this one out to Eddie.
Have you ever heard? Yeah. You ever heard that David Lee Roth clips where it's just the audio from just his microphone from the live performances?
No, that's probably great.
Amazing. Just Google it after this, or I'll have our producer add it to the end of this podcast just so people can hear.
It's a little clip there, yeah.
So it's like Running with the Devil. That's them, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Running with the Devil live audio clip with just his microphone on, and he has to do all these little adverb things where he goes like, woohoo! Like, yeah! Like for minutes at a time where he doesn't say any actual words. Yeah. It's pretty good.
I bet. Yeah. One of my, actually a quote that I throw around for many years is a David Lee Roth quote about the struggle of being a band on tour. He said, sometimes you're driving the Mercedes and sometimes you're sleeping in it. So that was like a good, when I'm on tour and somebody's like, dude, how do you guys do it? And I'm like, let me drop this on you right now. Okay. It's kind of how it is sometimes.
Greg, I wanted to ask you about something you guys did that I was really interested in. 20-year anniversary. You guys are past the 30 now, right?
Yes, that was what we did last year. It was our 30-year celebration.
I was at one of those shows.
Mhm.
The 20-year celebration, you did that
Yep.
TV special.
Yes.
Thing. Can you tell me about how that came about?
Well, most of the credit goes to the director. I can't even recall his name right now. I'm a little embarrassed about that. He did a great job, but we didn't really see him after that. He did this amazing job. We had a concept that we really brainstormed with him, and we wanted to do something different, and he really took the ball and ran with it. Once we decided to let's try to do a TV special, and then we just brainstormed, and he really just came up with those. He got the dancers, and we shot the whole thing in 2 days in Minneapolis because that's where he was from. We just went out, and it was just inspired by that idea of we've been a band for so long. What have we not done? That's just what you end up doing. You're and luckily we came across him, and he was excited enough about the idea to sort of put it together for not cost a fortune.
There was some great satire in there, the commercials for the 800 cassette tapes, and then there was the commercial for the quiche gun, shoots hot quiche into you. There's a lot of really good stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty much all. That director was really he put all those little details together. My favorite part is the "fuck you" segment.
Yeah, that's good.
It just was so much fun. It was so stupid. It was so much fun.
It kind of reminds me, I feel like punk had a certain tinge to it for a while that was immature fun was more widely celebrated. What if we just said "fuck you" to each other for 3 minutes? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I feel like that sense of humor though has faded a bit, for better or worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've had these. Obviously, we have these discussions backstage somewhere, surrounded by dicks on the walls, and we're sitting there, and we're like, are we really just are we just grumbly old dudes? But why don't we see bands doing that kind of stuff anymore? And then every once in a while, you will catch a sort of a band that's has a bit of a twist on it. And I feel I don't know, I've thought about this and talked about it many times, but I always when I see a band that they engage me, it doesn't matter how, almost. When I see a band that's not really interested in engaging with me, and the good people who just play their songs and they can really engage you with their songs, then it doesn't matter. As long as you're pulling me in somehow, it doesn't even matter. How great, even if the songs aren't that great, but if you're pulling me in somehow, it's great. And that's what I've always been inspired by, frontmen and bands that inspire me to do that. Why that exists not so much anymore, I don't know. I really have no idea.
I have another thing I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of a weird one. I'm not 100% sure if you've thought about this before. In that special and in a lot of your guys' videos and stuff, you have a fashion sense, which is very much like an everyman sort of I'm just a punk rock dude sort of fashion. But you're also the lead singer of a very well-known band that's toured the world and punk kids grew up listening to.
Yeah.
Is that something that you do? This is kind of hard to frame this question. Is it
a conscious thing?
Intentional?
Is it a conscious anti-fashion, sort of like everyday man approach, or is it just a comfort level? Talk to me
Yeah.
about that and whether or not that like fits into a brand of punk, because I kind of
Yeah.
see some of the way that you
Like,
dress and I go, yeah, that's like the everyman punker. You know
well,
what I
I'll
mean?
tell you the evolution I had personally. Like in the 90s, we were sort of had a skater style that was just
Mhm.
kind of all over the place. And then one day we had a show in New Brunswick, and I literally took an old suit of my dad's. Literally, like I was leaving the house. I'm like, I
Mhm.
want to wear this. Like I took an old suit out of the closet
Mhm.
and wore that on stage with a suit and tie and stuff. And it was like, this is helping me break out of something. It's
Mhm.
helping me find some personality, or whether more of me, less of me, someone else. I don't know what. And that began my whole relationship with the suits and the ties and stuff, which happened for years. And then, to be totally honest with you, man, is about like practicality.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm tired of like dealing with the suits. I'm just wearing a damn black shirt and a collar. You know what I mean? And I want to wear black pants, and I want to wear like some cool sneakers.
Yeah,
That's it.
because I saw that evolution over the years where
Yeah.
it's like okay, these guys, they look like Southern California punk dudes. I know that's not where you guys are from, but you just look like
Yeah.
kind of skater. And then the suits, which is like, I'm a fan of suits. I think it's
Yeah.
like
I am too.
they're
Yeah.
very much like designed to make you just like look proper and
Yeah.
nice.
Mhm. But it also became like, for a little while, I ran this like cane thing, which I was inspired by Angelo from Fishbone.
Mhm.
But it didn't last long because it was a shtick. It became a shtick right away. People were like, "Oh, dude, you got that cane. Where's your cane?" And like I was like, "This is the last thing I don't want to be. I don't want to be sticky. I want to just be, make it about engaging, and you're not trying to hide behind anything." Because I knew right away it was like any little thing I had like that. It was like it was something I could lean on that wasn't musical or wasn't energetic enough or whatever, like something I could hide behind.
So part of the reason why I asked this question is because I played in a band for a little while, not a
Okay.
popular band at all, but I got very into like a whole full blown gimmick where I had
Okay.
straight up costumes,
Yeah.
and I would be like dressing up in these costumes for an audience of 50 people or whatever. And then some nights I would be like,
Oh,
man,
50. Come on, Matt. You're just shooting a little high there. That's 15.
well, maybe 15 people fit in the like coffee shop back storage room or wherever we were playing.
Mhm.
But some nights I'd be like, you know what, man, fuck it. And people would be like kind of weirdly like, I thought this was the guy who dressed up all funny. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I just
Yeah.
wouldn't have any of the stuff with me.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden people expect something. And then, if you're doing it 9 months out of the year, it just is like, this is a burden. I'm shedding this. And if it's not cool, then so be it. Like, let's get out there and do the songs. And then, yeah, you're like, that's how so many of those cool bands that we were inspired by in the 80s, like they were just like dudes that walked off, whatever they wore every day. They just got up on stage and got their guitars. And then now we look back and see these black and white photos and like, look how cool those guys look. They're just like, they weren't thinking about it, unless, like there are examples of that are also cool. I'm not going to try to, like, the Misfits, like, somehow make that fun and cool. Like, and there's other examples of lots of it that, like, they make it. So I really like it. And it is part of their shtick, but they do have the songs too. So it's cool.
I love it. I love a good gimmick.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like the genre of music is really informed. Like if I see like a really ambient, like moody instrumental band and like one guy is wearing like plaid shorts, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like what are you doing? You just come out of Old Navy? But if like a punk ska band was wearing that, it'd be like perfect fit, like
Right.
100%. There we go. You nailed it.
It
Yeah.
definitely matters though, because I feel like the first time I saw the Bouncing Souls, I think my older brother had a poster in his room. And then I remember like looking at your guys' CD, and the way that bands look is definitely, you make a lot of assumptions right off the bat.
For sure. And I feel like there is a fine line between just coming off the street, what you normally wear, and then showing up and being like, look, I'm here and I'm dressed in a way that it's like I'm on stage it's a respect for the audience also in a sense too.
Mhm.
There's a lot of ways you can spin it. Like it has to feel like you're there and you're not just like, whatever, I don't give a shit, guys.
The full blown thing is like the
don't
addicts,
give a
right? With like Monkey, where it's like he's just
Yeah.
got like a million carnival tricks. You know, he must get so sick of that.
Yeah, I mean that's a pain in the ass. And then again, another good example, probably the prototype of the king of all this that makes it work is Alice Cooper. Have you guys ever seen Alice Cooper live?
I haven't seen him live now.
It's amazing. It's great. Like it's like I watched him for 2 hours. I know a handful of his songs. I'm not a huge fan, but he had me riveted for 2 hours. And he put on a show and it had like deep like meaning. It also was like the cheesiest like metal stuff that you're like, this is perfect because this is where it first came from. Like all this like style of that, like the like overblown like big hatchets and stuff, like you're like, this is the first person that did that stuff. So much fun. Like, and then of course that's been taken in many cool directions and many terrible directions as well. But Alice Cooper, that was good.
I remember seeing Metallica at a festival, and they had flames that were legitimately 200 or 300 feet in the air, and I was far away, and I felt like it burnt my face, and I was like, "That's fucking cool." I don't. That's just cool.
No doubt, man. If you got the money for that, it's awesome, and it makes a show. And again, Metallica it was all started out as a band that was just some sick dudes that played really good and awesome songs. So then add some flames to it, and it's fucking awesome.
Okay, so your band started in high school, right? You guys knew each other in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
still in my high school band. Yeah,
that's a long time to know some people, to become like brothers with them.
Yeah,
I also had a band that started in high school, and I think we were a band for like 4 years or something, and we blew up. Like where the personal relationships didn't work out. We couldn't be jammed in a van. Yeah. How close have you guys come to blowing up? And were there any years? Was it like 15 years in? Was it like, oh shit, maybe this isn't going to work out?
I wouldn't. 15 years in is very good. That's about when it became most strained. Let's put it that way. I was married. Pete and Brian were not, and Michael was going through a divorce. So I think we grew up the first 10 years, we literally were around each other 20 hours a day, like in the van. We lived together, we practiced together. Everything was just, it was sort of insane. And then the next 10 years, we sort of slowly started having to like grow up, sort of like figure out how to have our own lives and still do the band and stay on tour a lot.
Was there anyone who like
records.
really intensely resented that though? Because we had a blow up in my band where someone, one member pointed at another member's girlfriend, was like, "You stole my best friend."
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that none of the like nobody stole someone. None of that, like none of that stuff happened intensely at all. Luckily, what the dynamic was mostly was I got married in 2001. And I joke about it as being like, I got married on the pirate ship, and like nobody really likes the married guy on the pirate ship so much. So as Pete and Brian were going the opposite direction, like they had relationships that broke up and they were just like, I'm going to fully go into like rock and roll lifestyle, like next level. And so it's not like we didn't get along, but we didn't really connect anymore. Like we were all slowly
you couldn't do dinner parties with those guys
drifting
at this
apart.
point.
You were sketching up your greenhouse that you were going to build one day with your wife, and they're like, "Let's fucking go, man!"
Sort of on different planets, but then still spending time on way too much time on tour. So I started getting like I was just tired. I was just worn out, and then when you don't have that inspiration to go out on tour for months, it starts to really feel like work and feel like a job in a way that's not fun. So that began to rub on very not overt ways where we weren't like yelling and screaming at each other until one point in Australia, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I couldn't really be like, what I should have just said is I need to take a break. I'm fried and everything. But I sort of had a meltdown that was the one meltdown I had. And then we came home after a few weeks and like talked it out, and we're like, I essentially was like, I quit. Like, I can't do this, guys. Like,
that's pretty good. That's a lot of years before you have a meltdown. I mean, my band had meltdowns all the time.
well, we had, we got in, everything was serious, but we were about doing it, still doing it. It wasn't about breaking up. We got serious discussions about the music and what should we do, be on tour. Brian and our first drummer butted heads a lot about musical styles, and those are the kind of arguments we got in about, and the only difference is now is we don't take it so seriously. We get in these discussions and then we're like, we understand each other so well, and we care about each other. We love each other so much, and we all do have different lives, our own lives now. So when we get together now, it's like probably more fun than it ever was, because it's sort of this escape to hang out with your best friends, like
That's great.
it's a true release. Like that tour, the 30th anniversary tour, it was so good on every level. We had so much fun. The shows were great. And it was,
the set in Berkeley
as
was
music
great.
should be, it should be a release for us on stage, and then it's a shared release. And that's something that we struggled with as well. And over those, those years when it wasn't necessarily that anymore, and we were kind of like trying to figure out how to make that work again. That's where I feel like it's the hardest place to be. And it happens to everyone in life, I think, on various levels. Starting out in life is not as hard. It's like figuring it out at age 30, 35 to continue and hold on to some youthful spirit and some passion that you had in, spades. Like you have an abundance of that in your 20s, in your early 20s, it's a matter of keeping it and learning how to navigate an adulthood, or like a mature life, responsible life. Let's just use that word. Be responsible in the world and still, hold on to that.
Not become too jaded.
Exactly.
I worry about that with Bill, who's turning 45 next year. Isn't that right, Bill?
I'm 36 right now. I mean, just because. So here's the thing, Greg.
Yeah.
Matt's turning 30 this year, and he doesn't realize the wave that's coming down on him real soon. Because
Right.
I mean, I remember being 30 and I was out skateboarding every day, just having the time of my life. Now I go to the skate park down the street and I roll my ankle after a couple pushes, and I go, "This isn't fucking worth it," and I'm just in pain constantly.
Yes.
But
I don't do anything.
I mean,
I've already gone completely jaded. There's nothing left to lose for me. All I do
You're already
is
there. Okay.
you guys are looking at like the big event. I feel like I haven't done anything in. I'm lying to people. I'm saying, yeah, man, this COVID thing, you can't do anything, can you? I wasn't doing anything before, I'm like, yeah, I really miss all those parties I was going to, like stand-up comedy events, and like there's just so much community out there, and I miss it.
Yeah.
I was at home.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a state of mind. Honestly, it's just a state of mind. Yeah.
Greg, tell me
Yes.
about what you guys have coming up. Tell me about where people can see it and where you'd like them to direct their attention.
Thanks. Our new record is coming out October 23rd. I just got my vinyl. They sent me in the mail. I hadn't listened to it in a while, and I love it. I think it came out great. Again, if you like the Bouncing Souls, you like some of our earlier songs, you'll probably be surprised, and it'll be an adventure for you to go through this record. Did you guys hear it? Did James send you a copy at all?
I haven't heard it yet.
Okay. Anyways, it's just sort of a twist on a bunch of old songs. And if you haven't heard, the Bouncing Souls, then I think you'll enjoy it too. And whether you like it or not, you might
entry point.
Yeah, it's a very cool. I mean, we were just like, man, we are making like a soft rock record. Like we were like, this is crazy, and we're not afraid, we were just like, this is cool. Like we didn't even know what to call it, but it was like, this isn't an acoustic record. As we first got in there, and Will Yip, who was producing, he's like, first half hour. He's like, guys, we aren't really just going to make an acoustic record, right? We're going to use electric guitars. And we're like, yeah, you're right, Will. We're not going to just use acoustic instruments. So that's where it was off. And then we're like, we're off to who knows where. And, you know, George played, I think what George did on percussion stuff is the most interesting. He played different things. He didn't play the normal kit. And we just had a ton of fun. I think the vibe's fantastic. So check it out. October 23rd. We have a few singles out already. There's a video out for Highway Kings, which is a song off Anchors Away, which is, if you don't mind me going into a little more detail.
Go for it.
On this
absolutely.
Go.
A song that we recorded, and then after the fact, we're like, it's not quite arranged, you know, the way it could have. Like, it has a couple spots, like for years we're always like, could have been a really cool song with just a little bit different arrangement. So we kind of got to do that. And then of course the production's different and the sounds are different, but we also arranged it in a way I think that we can be just happy with.
That's
Was
awesome.
there like a big band discussion about releasing, you know, since you can't tour right now? Was it like, do we wait until the world comes back to normal, or we just want to put this out now and just get it out there?
Yeah, we wanted to kind of get it out as soon as possible. We felt like this is a good time to get it out. I mean, there were some discussions about like waiting till we can tour, but I was like, nah. That came up in discussion, but not for long, you know. Mm-hmm. It's like, let's just get it out there. And yeah.
Quick question at the end here. Brian Fallon, you have any interesting stories about him? He's a friend of ours. Anything embarrassing? Just really he told me he's off social media because he watched The Social Dilemma and read that book.
Okay.
So he won't hear this. So just tell me the most embarrassing Brian Fallon information you have.
I gotta say, I saw Social Dilemma recently too, and I was like, I'm really glad I saw it. It helps me. It helps me be a little more aware. But it was, anyways. He completely quit though. He completely quit social media.
He hadn't been on there for a long time, and so I texted him and I was like, "What's going on? You know, like I feel like you're just like gone." And he said, "You got to read this book. I read this book. I'm off it. It's bad for your brain." Yeah. I did see him post something that was like, it seemed like it was like a promotional thing that had to be posted.
Got it. So maybe he's just using it for that. Yeah, which is pretty much what I use it for anyway. But other than that, my Brian Fallon, I can't tell you any like crazy silly stuff that he did, but I always like to tell people, if they don't know, that he printed T-shirts at the guys who printed our T-shirts, who are our old buds, you know, and he would literally drill them with questions like, how do the Souls do this? How do the Souls do that? When they go on tour, how do they, like, that was what he was printing shirts, and he's asking Maddie and Wig, like, how do the Souls do that? How do the Souls do this?
Wait, he used to work in the print shop?
He printed T-shirts for our buds, Maddie and Wig, who back then owned the T-shirt printing shop that printed our shirts, and then went on to print Gaslight Anthem shirts.
And he wanted to get the blueprint?
Yeah, he was just starting out. He was a kid in a band. From Jersey. He lived in the area, and he got a job. Maddie and Wig hired him to print shirts, and he was just like some band kid, and he would ask about us all the time.
Well, that's a heartwarming story, so that's great. Yeah. But now you're going to have to come back on the pod some other time and tell me a very embarrassing story about Brian Fallon, because that's what I was after, okay?
I know. It's not very like, it's not like dropping some dirt on Brian or anything, but yeah.
Well, Greg, I can't tell you how exciting it is for me to have you on this show. Thank you so much for making the time. I'm going to dig into this new record tonight. Nice. I think maybe your guy sent it to me, but if not, I'm going to pester him and get him to send it.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, come back real soon, okay?
Thanks for having me, guys. I've enjoyed it and appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.